the game. You don't play it, just play it. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for you. Can't wait. Let's go.
All right, what's going on, everybody? It's a Tuesday night, which means it's time for the big three. A little bit later than 7. Once again, that's on me, but we still got an action-packed show with a lot of hitting topics. Make you laugh, might make you mad at us. I don't know. We'll kind of see how the night goes. But before we get into everything, Brett, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to talk some football and basketball today, boys. How are y'all doing?
Good. I mean, Jake, how are you? Oh, I think you're muted, Jake, or is that just me?
I am. Nope. I'm
Okay.
muted. I pulled an old man there. I'm doing great. Super excited for the show. Christmas is around the corner. Everything's just a great time of the year. Football, the playoff picture is really coming into perspective. The only downside is we got 3 games left for each team. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of sad. I think we need to pour one out for the season almost being over. But other than that, I'm doing great.
I mean, the only thing to look forward to is that the playoffs will probably be, epic only because so much uncertainty in the NFL that who could really predict what's going to happen. But we're going to get into the first topic because the NFL we always say for a little bit later in the show. Daniel Barry, what's going on? See you in here. Nothing says Christmas like Draymond Green, right? Draymond, I mean, I don't want to make light of it necessarily, but this image right here, Draymond, fighting for position, swinging his arm around. We were wondering what the suspension would look like. We found out it was indefinite. Then there was a report that we may not see him for like 3 weeks. Okay, I guess that's how long this counseling and everything's going to go. Everybody's saying that they hope Draymond gets the help that he needs and everything like that. Sure. First question, were you okay with it being indefinite, or did you want a set number of games attached to it? Start with Brett.
I think indefinite's the right way to go in Draymond's case. Because a set number of games, I'm not sure if he would have learned at all. Because he gave him a set number of games on the last one, and then he does this. I just don't know if there's an amount of games that would have really taught him a lesson. Indefinite, that might teach him a thing or two, because now they can just kind of hold him out as long as they want. So I think this is deserved, honestly. It's a long time coming, especially since this is the third or fourth Draymond incident this year, third this season. And he, this, it's just getting ridiculous. So this is the right call by the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. If it were just to be a 10-game suspension or 15-game suspension, Draymond would look at it, take the time, take the suspension, take obviously the pay rate or pay cut from it, and then come back and probably be the same old Draymond, because he's never been apologetic. He's always kind of almost gloated about the fact that this is who he is, that he does these things. He's going to stomp on someone's chest. He's going to choke someone out. He's going to punch someone in the nuts. He's going to punch out a teammate, because that's who I am. That's what makes Draymond. This is very different, where the league is saying, hey, you have to fix yourself. You have to get counseling. You have to look at this and try and just get better. We can speculate all we want about if there's anything going on in his personal life, but this makes him almost have to look at himself and try and figure out what's going wrong. So yeah, it's definitely the right call, because he's been ejected 3 times, and if you look, the 5 most violent acts on the court over the past just year have been all Draymond. He sucker punched his teammate. He had 3 ejections this season, and then he stomped on Sabonis. All of it's Draymond. No other players are fighting, throwing hands, choking people out. It's just Draymond. And because of that, the league did the right thing by giving themselves leeway to either make it longer or shorter based on how he reacts to it.
I mean, look, I understand, where the indefinite comes from. Kerm saying he wanted indefinite. Gene said it's overrated, sorry, which I think some people kind of agree with that only because the choking out was probably worse than the Nurkic thing, even though the Nurkic one was pretty bad. And he got 5 for that. He gets indefinite for this one. It makes it seem like this one was worse, but the league did say it's like an accumulation of stuff that Draymond's done, and I get that as well. The issue might be that the one person or the people who probably could have curbed Draymond Green's behavior are probably within his own team. He's been seen as the tough guy on a Warriors team. That if you think of Steph Curry, you don't think toughness. You think of a finesse player, Klay Thompson, finesse player. Draymond was the guy who gave them an edge. And we see a lot of players around the league like that. Pat Beverly, Marcus Smart, guys like that. Now, Draymond is the extreme case because Draymond does stuff like this, yes. But I mean, this is kind of a part of the league, but then you understand where the league's coming from because of the product with, you got to worry about the sponsors and the audience and everything like that. You can't have a guy going around, clocking people upside their head. I understand that. So I get the indefinite part the same way I would get, I guess, if you wanted it to be maybe another 5-gamer. Sure, I guess I could listen to that argument as well. But I guess the part of this might be as well, he's going to counseling and everything. And if they completely heal Draymond Green, whatever that looks like, doesn't that kind of could that potentially take away a part of who Draymond is and change kind of the player that makes him effective?
Absolutely. Like, just go back to their last playoff series against the Lakers. Draymond did not have that same edge that we saw when they lost to the Lakers, and they didn't have that edge. They didn't have that attitude. They didn't have that toughness, and they got schooled by the Lakers because of their size and their strength. Like, Draymond wasn't his typical self. I know maybe it's because of the clutch relationship and everything that's there, but he wasn't the same. So if we get a subdued Draymond, he's not the same player. A soft Draymond is not the best version of Draymond Green. And it sucks because for him to be great, he has to find this balance where he's tough and strong, but he also can't be backhanding people. I mean, if you've ever been sucker punched before, if you're not expecting a hit and someone clocks you like that, they could do some serious damage. It can knock you out. It can damage an orbital bone. Like that hit was really bad. That's like an MMA type of move. A spinning backhand is a legit move. And if you're not expecting it, it's going to knock you out. He has to find a balance where he's not hurting people, but he can still be physical. And I just don't know if he can find that. I don't know if that's possible for him to do, because he's also 35 years old. Can't make a dog learn new tricks. He is who he is.
Yeah. I mean, Brett, what do you think about the potential of a nicer Draymond Green? Can he function in the NBA being too nice and not having that edge to his game?
No, he really can. You needed to suspend him indefinitely for sure, but he also has to understand that he's just got to find balance. You can still be physical, talk your smack. You can still get texts. Nobody's angry if he gets text for talking. It's just like this. You can't just punch Nurkic, and I don't even think you can make the argument that 5 games or anything of another 5-game suspension, because he clearly didn't learn his lesson last time from choking out Gobert with the 5-game suspension. You tried suspending him, making him miss playoff games. That didn't work. You've even suspended him to make him miss a finals game. That didn't work. So clearly you need something bigger to really try to get through to him that, hey, you can still be physical. You can still bring your physical brand of basketball. You just can't be doing the extracurricular stuff. But if Draymond comes back and tries to be
extracurricular,
if he comes back and tries to be this nice guy, it's not going to go very well for him. That's just not who he is. He's just got to cut this out.
Right. And I mean, I can agree with that. You toe the line, you just don't cross it to where it's reckless. And for the Warriors' sake, hopefully this, clicks in Draymond's head and he realizes that he doesn't have to be, a choir boy or something. He can still be the enemy of everybody of every other team. It's just that we can't be looking at him and wondering what's the next thing he's going to do. So we'll see in 3 weeks' time, apparently, what that looks like. Brandon in the chat, what's going on? Said, do we think that the Warriors are done with Draymond upon his return, or does it depend? And he said, very good question about the whole if Draymond changes his demeanor. But are we thinking that the Warriors are done?
I don't think they can be. They just signed him to an extension. And let me ask another question. Okay, you're done with Draymond. Who's trading for him right now? What team are you going to find that's going to take him on? Because at this point, his value is at an all-time low. So you have to bring him back, and you have to run with him most likely till at least till the end of this year. And if he plays well enough, then maybe you can flip him. So I think even if they want to be done with him, I just don't see it happening until at least this offseason. So the answer is I think they're done with antics, but I don't think they're done with Draymond Green.
No, yeah, they're not trading Draymond. If Draymond can punch his own teammate in a practice and not get suspended by the team, let alone get kicked off the team, but not even be suspended, they're not going to get rid of him. They need him. Like you said, Brett, he just signed to that 4-year extension. But Draymond's also like he's the facilitator for this team. He's the floor general. He makes everything work on both offense and defense. And I'm not going to take anything away from Steph because Steph is a fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
But when Draymond's on the court, Steph's play and his ability is absolutely elevated. He is so much better when Draymond's on the court because they work together. They don't have to say anything. They just have to look at each other and they know how the offense is going to operate. And you can't find that anywhere else. So if they trade him, like you said, not only do they have to find a suitor where they're getting probably 60 cents on the dollar,
mm-hmm.
Steph's going to be severely hampered by this because of what he brings and how he fits specifically with Steph Curry. The problem is that Draymond, as great as he's been for him, it's also cost him a couple of runs. He's killed a couple of their seasons, this season included.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. If you take Draymond out of the equation, that just puts more on the Steph's plate, which he's already having to deal with an inconsistent Klay Thompson. He's dealing with, Kuminga that's been up and down. He's dealing with the lack of size on the team. Like, it's a lot on Curry, and you remove Draymond Green, that's just more on him. So, yeah, they'll definitely stick with him this season unless if he comes back in 3 weeks and is just reckless, then maybe the team might have to sit down and think about, can we just find a way to like wash our hands of it, take whatever hit that comes with it, and just be done with them. I don't think it gets that far, but that's probably the only way they even think about that.
It might have to be something where the league suspends him for the rest of the year, where he, like, let's say he comes back from his 3-week suspension, punches another guy, chokes, something happens, and he gets suspended for the rest of the year. And then the Warriors are like, look, we have to move on at this point because you've been suspended way more than suspended more games than you've played. And it's just not a value for what the team is going to have. But I don't think it's going to get there. But they can't move on from him. He's too vital for what they need. I mean, look how Steph has not played as great this season. He's still good, but it's not where he was last year. That's because Draymond's missed most of the games. And look at their record, too. They're outside, I think, the play-in tournament right now.
Yeah, I think they're the 11th seed.
I think they're 11th seed.
Yeah. Okay. Brandon also said, yep, Jake included in that all-time birth in 2016 finals.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, that was a good opening segment talking about old Draymond Green. So we'll be right back after this word from the network.
What's up, everybody? It's Cottrell Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, we are back. Those are the guys wire to wire. Catch them on the network tomorrow night. Brandon did throw in there. What about Draymond in Detroit? I mean, Detroit's kind of calling around for. Isn't Detroit trying to get like Tobias Harris or something like that? They clearly are just open to do whatever it takes to fix whatever's wrong in Detroit. I mean, I don't know if Draymond fixes their problems, but
Can you imagine Draymond being on a team that loses 26 games in a row or 24? I think they're at 24. Like, he can't control his anger when they're winning, when they're part of a dynasty, when he's playing with the greatest shooter ever. Can you imagine playing with a bunch of non-shooters? Like the team of the most non-shooters, he's there and they're losing, and they have a coach that can't seem to juggle I love their coach, but he can't seem to juggle the right minutes. He would be punching people just because he didn't want to play anymore. He'd be like, let me get out of here. I don't want to do this.
The thing with Draymond and why that really wouldn't work is Draymond is one of the worst players I've ever seen when it comes to playing in a meaningless game. Draymond excels under pressure in games with meaning. Send him to a place that doesn't fit his skill set at all, and to a place that aren't going to be playing any meaningful games for him to really get competitive and fired up about. You just see him mail it in for the rest of the year and for the next 3. So now I'm good.
So I was about to say, because Brandon literally just put in the chat, I was like, the only thing would be that's his area. Is he from like Saginaw or something, Michigan? So maybe him being home, yeah. So that's where I think Brandon was coming from. But yeah, the fit would probably be terrible. But who knows? Crazier things have happened. Side put, must be on the wrong channel for you guys to have my sons on here. Now, how we're about to talk about them, you may not feel the same way here in a second. So for the Suns, these are the 3. This is their big 3. This is the 3 that was supposed to propel the Suns to, top of the West, title contenders, and all that. But there's one problem. We can't seem to see them all on the court at the same time. So is it too early to think that this season for the Suns might be doomed just for the sheer fact that they can't all be healthy at the same time? We start with Jake.
I mean, it is early to say that it's doomed. I guess if you say doomed, I'm thinking, they maintain where they're at. They struggle because right now I think they're the 10th seed in the West. They still have a winning record because the West is super deep. But I was never huge on this super team to begin with. I didn't like the Bradley Beal. Look, he's overpaid for what he does. He's an okay shooter. He's not a great defender. I mean, he was with Washington, and Washington never did anything when he was the guy. You have Booker and Kevin Durant, who are both fantastic players, but I just felt like they didn't fit well together. It's opposite of like what we see in Boston, where everybody fits together. In Milwaukee, people fit together. Their skills overlap too much here that I didn't like what I saw. We know there's going to be injuries, so I think I wouldn't say doomed. Like they're going to probably recover and be like a 7 or 8 seed at worst, but they're not going to be able to make a run in this West with the size that's going on here, with how competitive and how much better the West is. There's no way that they can meet those expectations that a lot of people had when these trades went through, and they're expecting them to be this team that's going to go to the finals. I don't think that's possible, and I didn't believe it to begin with. But what we're seeing on the court, it's not going to happen because these guys are going to get hurt. It's just, I mean, besides Booker, they're all older.
I mean, look, just the mention of the Suns set Brett's dog off. He was just like,
there it is.
Yeah, see, Brett's dog understands the Suns. So yeah, I guess saying Dune might be a bit of a stretch, but I guess we'll say in terms of them being contenders, because when these 3 were put together, a lot of people jumped on the Suns hype train. So we'll just say, are those, I guess, predictions doomed because of seemingly their inability to all stay healthy.
Sorry about that. He has a mind of his own over there, but
It's all good.
this was a team that before the season started, when I was predicting what they do, I picked getting knocked out in the second round. This was a team I was never high on. Normally, when you pair a big three together, you get 3 stars, the ones that work the best. They have skill sets that complement each other. Think about the big three in Boston in 2008. We have Kevin Garnett, the anchor of the defense, Pierce, the dominant ISO scorer, and Ray Allen, who is really good at playing off the ball. You look at historically, you pair together 3 guys. It works really well when their skills complement each other. But when in a situation like this, you got 3 guys who are pretty much good at the exact same thing. They can all score the ball. They can all shoot the ball. And I would say Devin Booker's a good playmaker, but they all like to score from the same areas, attack from the same areas, and they're all injury prone, I would say, at this point, except maybe D-Book. He hasn't missed too much time, but Beal definitely. He's played 38 minutes this year. Kevin Durant's probably due for one soon. And
I was going to say, Kevin Durant he's played in 22 of their 26 games. He's going to get hurt. He gets hurt every year, so it's only going to get worse in that aspect. But go ahead, Brett.
Think about the other guy who they're relying on, Yusuf Nurkic. He's not the poster of health here. I predicted before the season started, when the playoffs start, it's going to be Drew Eubanks starting at center because Nurkic isn't going to be available. So this is a team, I think, a mix of injuries and just redundancy is what's going to kill them. Their lack of defense is going to really come into playoffs, and they're not going to be able to outshoot everybody.
I mean, yes, that's definitely valid when talking about the Suns there. I was kind of messed up. We knocked Nurkic after showing him getting knocked out by Draymond Green. He just can't
I'm
win.
I'm surprised he didn't get hurt from that, to be honest. But no,
right.
Nurkic is on a terrible contract and is always hurt. I don't know. That was not a smart pickup for the Suns, in my opinion. But
well, we know they had an Ayton problem. Ayton didn't want to be there. They found a way to get him out, and they just happened to have to take on Nurkic. I think maybe the one thing that might save the Suns, which Saijan said give them a chance, there's a lot of question marks in the West. Yes, the Clippers have turned it around here. Do you fully believe in them? Minnesota looks like world beaters right now. Do you think they'll sustain that through the season and still be somewhat of a dominant team come playoffs? There's the Lakers that are hanging around. The Mavericks look really good, but can we trust Kyrie to keep those good feelings going as the season goes on? And also, we talked about durability. Shout out to Kawhi Leonard for not missing a game yet. What's going on in the NBA? See, Adam Silver brings in the in-season tournament, and all of a sudden Kawhi's healthy. Give that man a raise. Give him a raise. But yeah, so I think we'll probably have to revisit the Suns as the season goes on because, yes, Beal's only played 38 minutes. Now, if that is something that is a narrative throughout the season, then yes, the Suns will be behind the 8 ball because they're going to need all 3 of these guys playing at peak level because of the issues defensively. They're going to have to beat teams like 135, 130, and stuff like that in order for them to be effective. Now, playoff time, we'll have to see when the game seemingly slows down, whether that works in their favor as 3 guys who can, create for themselves. So maybe that's the lingering hope for the Suns. The game slows down, these 3 can dominate one-on-one matchups, and then that helps them get through the season. But I don't know. The Suns will be interesting.
They could turn it around, but I have way more faith in Denver, and I don't see when Denver's healthy with Jamal Murray's fully back into there. The Suns have no answer for Jamal. They're gonna have no answer for Jokic. They're gonna have no way to combat that. And we know that when in the postseason, like you said, when the game slows down, you can't just you can't be relying on scoring 130 plus points to get you through a playoff series. It's not feasible. And their lack of defense or lack of size is going to be really tough. And that's why I didn't buy into them super hard when this trade happened back in the summer. But we'll have to see because that you never know what can happen. But Who would have thought that, before the season that the Suns would be the 10th seed and the Warriors would be the 11th seed come, a week before Christmas? Like,
Good point.
crazy things do happen, but this is not. I expect them to be bad, just not this bad. I guess maybe not bad. I didn't expect them to live up to the expectations that ESPN put out, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. I'll put it that way.
I think this team, you're going to see them. They're going to get healthy, and then I think probably around like mid-February, you're going to see them start to get hot, and they're going to go on a nice run and get everybody all excited, and then I think they disappoint everybody in the playoffs. But I do think that after the All-Star break, they're going to get hot.
Okay. So there you go, Sajan. We gave you Suns talk, and we promise you won't be the last. Whether it's positive, I can't promise that. But yeah. Actually, because I believe the next topic is going to be NFL, did want to say, shout out to the Spurs for ending their losing streak. I think the Wizards won a game or two as well. So now all we have to do is worry about the Pistons never winning a game again. They're the last team. Last one on the island of futility.
I think they're just like 1 or 2 losses away from tying the losing. They're 2 losses away from tying the longest losing streak.
Hey, let's say they got the Bucks tonight. Maybe they had the Bucks a couple days ago. I was thinking of the Spurs, but I don't see the Pistons winning a game for the rest of December. So I think they'll easily get this.
Yeah,
their best chances against the Jazz on Thursday because the Jazz aren't great. That's their best chance.
They had a shot last night against the Hawks. They lost by like 5, but the Pistons will Piston.
Turns out when you take out Killian Hayes out of the lineup and replace it with more spacing, the offense looks more functional. Shocker.
I don't know.
Don't
know how that guy's getting minutes.
I say at this point, I do enjoy Monty Williams at times, but man, he's just been such a rough coach for them these past this past year. I know a lot of people are just blaming the players, but I think you got to look at Monty Williams too with all these decisions he makes, a lot of the times with rotations, minutes, lineups. He's just putting everybody in the worst possible position to succeed. And I'm not saying the players are blameless in all this at all. Like, they've been bad too. But I do think we need to be looking at Monty a lot more than we do for this one.
I agree, Brett. And it's hard because everyone likes Monty. Like, he's a coach that I would want to play for, and he's a great person on top of that. Like, we don't want to criticize him because we all like him, but you look at how they performed in the rotations, and you're like, how we talked about you the past 5 years, one of the best coaches in the league, and now you're giving us this? What are you just phoning it in because you're kind of done? Like, I don't get it.
Well, I'll say the issue that I saw last year was we saw the Suns a couple times last year. Seemingly, as soon as they gave up a big lead and they were down, they just kind of rolled over and gave up. We saw that in prime time. We even saw that in a Game 7 in a playoff game. And now it's looking like it's happening again in Detroit. These guys are getting down, and as soon as they get down by double digits, first quarter, doesn't matter. They just roll over and let the lead balloon. So I do think Monty walked into a bad situation, so I don't think it's fully on him, but I do think that he deserves a lot more criticism than he gets.
Agreed.
Okay. Hey, if they win between now and next week, we will dedicate a segment to the Detroit Pistons. So if you're a Pistons fan, you're stumbling on here, just know that.
Can we talk about like the 04 Pistons? Does it have to be this year's Pistons?
we will turn it into trip down memory lane. We'll look at the Isaiah Thomas Pistons. We'll look at it all. All right. So before we go on to the next topic, once again, another word from the network.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What do we talk about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ECHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the professional women's hockey league.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2. And
You can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to 2guysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey, right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, the Two Guys in Hockey Talk crew, as you heard from, they come on tomorrow night as well after Wire to Wire. So get a nice little back-to-back with two great shows. All right, so Jake, you kind of alluded to this early in the show about the playoff picture and how it's jumbled up. So looking here at the AFC really quickly to give you all an update on where things stand. The Ravens are your 1 seed at 11-3. You got the Dolphins 10-4, Chiefs 9-5, Jags 8-6. Your division leaders right now. The wild cards might be a surprise. You got the Browns at 9-5, Bengals 8-6, Colts 8-6. And then on the outside looking in, you got the Texans, Bills at 8-6, then Steelers, Broncos, both 7-7. So, quick question will be, looking at the teams that are in the playoffs right now, will it stay this way the rest of the season? I think I know the answer to that, but I just want to see where you're going to go with it.
I don't think it's not gonna say the exact same. I do think Baltimore is probably gonna take the 1 seed. I think they're a very good regular season team. Their defense is firing on all cylinders. Lamar seems to be playing pretty well. They have a really good run game, which translates better into the colder weather. And I just think they want the 1 seed. They want the bye. They're going to go for it. So I do think they take the 1 seed. I think Miami is probably going to fall. If I could see them potentially losing the division, because they do have a tough game against Dallas and they play Buffalo the last game of the season. Okay. So that's kind of a lot of jockeying. And then the real thing is going to be what happens in the AFC South. Jacksonville, Indy, and Houston are all 8-6. I don't know how all those teams kind of mix together for their last bit of schedules, but something is going to go nuts there. But I think Cleveland is a pretty safe bet to make the playoffs. They're 9-5. They look fantastic. They've been playing really well, and I think they're going to be a lock for probably that top wildcard spot moving forward.
Okay. So Brett, question for you. Looking at the 3 wildcard teams, Browns, Bengals, Colts, how many of those 3 stay in at the end of the season, and the ones that you think fall out, who replaces them?
Ooh, see, this is tough, but I do think that the Colts will end up falling out. I do think the Bills will replace them.
Okay.
And I think that's about it, really. I just see the Bills forcing their way in there. I think they're getting hot at the right time. They look good beating Dallas this past week. So overall, I kind of think in general, this is about how I envision the playoff picture will look come playoff time. I think the only difference is the Bills are going to leapfrog their way in there.
Okay. I mean, look, the Bills, I was one of those who said before the season, we're going to make the playoffs. For a lot of weeks, they did not look like a playoff team. But it seems like they've flipped the switch, which I know is that dreaded phrase in sports, at the right time. And they definitely have a chance to get in. I mean, they're still on the outside looking in, so they do need some help to get in. But, I mean, the Colts are an uncertainty, and even the Bengals, because we don't know if Jake Browning will continue this great play. There's a chance that he may fall off, and that hurts the Bengals' chances as well. But it definitely looks like the Bills are ready to pounce and capitalize on one of those teams struggling. Okay, so we can agree the Ravens and the Dolphins are set, although Jake said thinks the Bills might overtake them. But you would still have the Dolphins as a playoff team, right?
Dolphins are going to the playoffs. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, Jags are all going to be locked. It's just going to be a matter on the seeding for how that goes.
Okay. So then looking at the Jags as well, because we talked about the AFC South, We got Jags, Colts, Texans, all 8-6. Who do you think wins the division first? Do you think the Jags hold on, or Colts or Texans overtake them?
I think the Jags will end up holding on. I think what'll help them is this is a situation where they've been here before, so they've got experience in handling this playoff pressure. I think the Colts have Minshew and he's had it too, but overall, I think the Jaguars are more talented team than them, especially at the quarterback position, and that'll give them enough fuel to stay ahead of both the Colts and Texans.
Okay, Jake, what do you think?
I think Jacksonville does hold on. I know they haven't been playing very great, but Houston is just being bogged down more and more by injuries. That magic that we saw earlier in the season does seem to be kind of falling apart. Still kudos to the Texans. I never thought they'd be 8-6 and in the playoff hunt. So I'm not trying to poo-poo on them because I'm a huge fan of what I've seen. But it comes down to the injuries for the Texans, and the Colts have a bunch of injuries too. They did beat up on the Steelers, but it looks like the Steelers have just basically quit on the season. So I do think Jacksonville is a more talented team, and they probably hold on to it. But again, it's tough to say because this season has been so weird. But if I had to bet money, it'd be that Jacksonville holds on and wins that division.
Jory said everybody else in the playoffs minus mine. Look, I would have loved to put the whole AFC on the graphic because way at the bottom is my team sitting there playing spoiler. I guess. I don't know. Whatever. But,
you're playing for April is what you're doing.
Hey, got to play for something, I guess. Yeah.
So say y'all got to play for that off-ball linebacker at pick 2.
Look out. Youngstown State linebacker coming in. Okay, so what was I going to say? Okay, so for me, look, I would love to see the Texans get in. Like you said, Jake, I love what DeMeco Ryans has done there. Hopefully CJ Stroud can, get out of protocol and everything, and they can finish the season strong. Plus, I do want my prediction to come true of the Bills not making the playoffs. So I'll say the Texans find a way in. If there's one prediction I could get right, hopefully it's the Bills, because as you'll see later on, my picks are trash. Okay? I'm going to say it. If any of you are listening to my picks at this point, I appreciate the support, but I'm telling you not to anymore. Like I said, you'll see here in a few minutes. But all right, so last question.
But Kyle, real quick before we move on, you've been pretty hot on the Bengals and Jake Browning, and they've been in this. They don't go away. They've been playing pretty decently. So I'll give yourself a little credit. You've been hot on the Bengals for a while when a lot of people wanted to write them off. So just don't be too hard on yourself.
I had the Browns too.
Yes, and when everybody was wanting to dump on the Browns, especially with Joe Flacco, you weren't wanting to give up on them. So you get some things right. Just not when it comes to our official gambling picks.
My dream scenario for the Jaguars, Colton Texans, I need them to end in a 3-way tie and everything line up so we decide the division by a coin toss. I need to see this happen once. The final tiebreaker.
That would be great.
That goes along with Jory's way of thinking because she wants chaos.
Give me chaos.
Yes. A coin flipped it. Oh, that would
we were robbed of the tie at the Raiders Chargers game a couple years ago, where if they tied, they both got in. We were robbed of that. So give me a coin toss to determine the playoffs. I want something like that.
Okay. And then, Brett, this is something you want to talk about. I feel like this would be a good point. The Jaguars, a lot of talk lately been about Trevor Lawrence. So if the Jags were to somehow, after making it seem like early in the season they were destined to win this division, if they were to fall out of it, what should we say? What should we say about the team and Trevor Lawrence? Because obviously it's going to come down on their quarterback. How should we kind of talk about this season in terms of Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars if they don't finish the job and miss the playoffs?
I think we all know that everything is, like you just said, it's all going to come down on Trevor Lawrence. I don't think, people aren't going to talk about the fact that the Jaguars right now have 23 drops from their receiving positions. That is tied for, I believe it's 4th most in the NFL to give context, Patrick Mahomes is tied for the league lead with 26, so he's only 3 behind Mahomes in that category. So I think we have a situation where this is just a accumulation of everything. Now, I do think T-Law has his flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's a top 15 quarterback in this league. I just thought he would make the jump this year to be closer to 5 than he is to 15, which the reality is he's probably closer to 15 at this point. However, I do think he's still a phenomenal talent. And if the Jaguars do flame out, I think we just got to understand that a lot of factors went into them failing than Trevor Lawrence. Like, yes, give him his fair share of blame. But the O-line is, I believe I looked at this earlier, it's in the bottom 10 of the league in both pass and run blocking. You were out the number 1 receiver. The defense hasn't been anything special. Like, there's a whole slew of issues right now in Jacksonville, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't performed as well as I thought he would, but he definitely he definitely deserves some blame for it.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's funny. Trevor Lawrence is slowly becoming, like, in sports media, this very polarizing player, because you look at his rookie year, and a lot of the anti-Trevor Lawrence people will pull out his full stats, and they look at the rookie year. The pro guys say you have to throw out that rookie year because Urban Meyer was like the single worst head coach the NFL has ever seen, which I agree. Like, you can't hold that first year on him because it was such a train wreck that it's really hard to kind of figure out exactly who Trevor Lawrence is and what we can expect from him. Mm-hmm. And I think last year, the first half of the season, he wasn't very good, but he had a really, really good second half, looked really good in the playoffs. They almost beat the Chiefs. I want more from Trevor Lawrence. I want him to make that step, but the roster hasn't been great. The drafting around him hasn't been the best. It hasn't been bad, but it definitely hasn't been the best. But if they miss the division, they miss the playoffs, it will fall on him because he's the leader. He's also the most hyped prospect we've seen since Andrew Luck. And before that, it was Peyton Manning. So there is a lot of pressure there. And it's going to fall on him, whether it's justified or not. And it's just going to fuel this pro and negative Trevor Lawrence camps. They get more and more entrenched. And I just want to see him be better. And I think he can. He just needs to make that next step. And like you said, I was expecting him to make that jump this year. Maybe it's next year that we see the jump.
I mean, look, and as somebody who has seen the effects of an offensive line with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, whoever you want to put in shotgun or under center, that can definitely affect a player's ability to be effective. Not saying I'm comparing Mac Jones to Trevor Lawrence at all, but there are factors that have led to him not reaching the hype that he had coming in out of Clemson. That we can all agree on. And luckily, he's still early enough in his career that all it would take is, even if they sneak into the playoffs somehow, he wins a couple of games in the playoffs. We'll be right back here next year talking about how the Jags are up and coming team. Trevor Lawrence is this. The guys around him maybe need an upgrade, but at least they're playing well. Because yes, the receiving core, if I told you that Christian Kirk was your number 1 receiver, you'd probably say that's probably a 500 team. Only because Christian Kirk's another guy, because of what we saw in Arizona, we didn't think a lot about him. But look, he's had an upgraded quarterback with Lawrence over Kyler Murray. He's looked better. Zay Jones was another guy who was kind of a cast off in, Buffalo, I think? And he's gotten there, has been more effective. Evan Ingram, cast off from the Giants, been effective with Trevor Lawrence. So situations like that, you have to give Trevor Lawrence the credit, as well as Doug Peterson, of course, because Peterson's an upgrade over Urban Meyer. But yeah, like you both said, he definitely has to show more the rest of this season, next season as well, before we can elevate him to that kind of status with a Mahomes or, whoever you have in your top tier. Before you can even think about putting him in that conversation, he does need to do more on the field.
Yeah, we can't be having this conversation next season. Like 12 months from now, on this podcast, we can't be having this conversation. If we're wondering about what Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are doing, then there's going to be some disappointment for what his career could be, because if he can't make it the rest of this season, he has to make it next season.
I just want to see more consistency out of him. Like I said, he got off to a slow start at the beginning of last year, heated up towards the end.
Mhm.
He's doing the same thing again this year. He got off to a slow start, but he's, looking better and better. That's like really what I wanted to see, is just watch him put together a couple of complete full seasons where he's just consistently great, not up and down. Even if you look back at like that playoff game where he made the big comeback is almost a microcosm of what his career has been so far. He looked really bad in that first half, and then all of a sudden he looked like that quarterback that was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, or the best thing since Andrew Luck. Like, I just need to see more consistency and him be who he can be throughout a full 17-game season, not the insane up and downs like he's had so far.
Well said, Brett.
Same things we used to say about Josh Allen and still say about Josh Allen. Just want consistency. All right, so before we go to the NFC, quick question from Brandon Price, chiming in, love it. We'll just make these really quick answers. So if the Bills were to sneak into the postseason, would you want to play this team? I guess it was too simple, yes or no.
No. If they make it in, that means they're hot and they're peaking in the right moment, and they have a lot of talent. And that's a team that's going to be a very difficult out in the first round.
Brett?
This one's tough for me because part of me wants to say no because they're hot, but also playoffs is normally when Josh Allen likes to play hero ball and his game gets predictable. So, you know what? I'll go the opposite way. Yeah, because I do know the Bills, I do know their offense, and I do know that there is a way to stop them. So I wouldn't mind matching up against Buffalo.
I mean, it's a good point. A lot of these teams that are in the playoffs, the one thing you can say about them, their defenses are actually pretty good. And if Josh Allen wants to throw those, arm runs, as Jory calls them, these are teams that will take advantage of those opportunities. Brandon's other question: who, in your opinion, guys, is the clear-cut number one team in the AFC? Because they all look vulnerable to me right now. I definitely agree with you. They all have their warts. But once again, quick answer: is there a clear-cut number one team in the AFC? Well, I guess he said, who, in your opinion, is the number one team in the AFC? Go ahead, Brett.
I don't really
go ahead, Brett. I still got to think on this.
This is a tough one because I really don't think there is a clear-cut number one, head above heels over everyone this year. Like, every single one of these teams has, like, a really significant flaw that you can take advantage of. So, I think the answer is no, there's not a clear-cut team this year.
Yeah, there isn't a clear-cut team in the AFC because, the Miami Dolphins, they can't get out of their own way. They're a team that likes to beat up on bad teams. The Ravens, we all know how we feel. We need to see what they can do in the postseason. And the Chiefs, I guess I would lean towards the Chiefs being the team that could be the number one seed, because if the receivers could just catch the damn ball, they'd have like 3 more wins. And their defense is playing really great. But there is not a clear number one team in the AFC, and that's why these postseason is just going to be chaos, and I'm all for it. It's going to be pure chaos.
Okay, so I'll follow up Brandon's. This I promise you is the last one before we go to NFC. Ravens are the best team in the AFC right now, today. Yes or no?
Yeah, right now, yeah, I'd say they're the best team. That defense is scary. When they're firing on all cylinders, they're really hard to beat. So I would say they're the best team right now.
Yeah, I would say they're the best team.
Okay. I mean, look, people know I'm the resident Ravens hater, apparently. And even I would say defense, yes. Still have a lot of questions about their offense, but because of that defense, I would say yes. But nowhere near clear cut because, I wouldn't count out the Chiefs, because with this collection of AFC teams, with all the issues the Chiefs have, I wouldn't be shocked if they made the AFC title game or a Super Bowl because of the uncertainty with all these other teams. But this is the year, if the Ravens are ever going to do something in the playoffs, this has to be the year.
That's it. You nailed it, Kyle. You
I
nailed it. If the Ravens...
Yes. Good.
Yeah, and if the Ravens don't make the AFC Championship game, then they have to take a long look at themselves in the mirror and figure out that this is going to happen. If it doesn't happen this year, because every team, the Bengals, they're down. They don't have Joe Burrow. The Bills are
Mhm.
down. The Chiefs are down. Like all the competition is down. If they don't get it this year, when are they? They've never had an easier path to an AFC Championship game, to a Super Bowl, and if they can't get that, they're never going to. They never will.
I'm sure some Ravens fan might stumble in and they'll see this and be like, hater. Well,
I'm not a
I'll
hater. I'm
gladly
just
wear
being
that.
honest.
No, I'm talking
I'm
me.
not a hater. No, I know you're a hater, but like I'm agreeing with you though. Like you can hate on them, and that's fine. We all have our teams that we hate,
Yeah.
and that's part of being a fan. But Baltimore, if they don't get it this year, they got to be like, we have this fantastic defense. Lamar's playing great. We're the number 1 seed. We can run the ball. Lamar's actually throwing the ball pretty well. Every team that's beaten us historically with this run they've had is down at their worst they've been. Like you can't ask for a better situation for Baltimore. You just can't.
All right. Let's go ahead and get on to the NFC now. All right. So the NFC, we're looking at the Niners 11-3, your Cowboys 10-4, Lions 10-4, Baker Mayfield and those Bucks 7-7, leading the NFC South. Your wild card teams are the Eagles 10-4, Vikings and Rams at 7-7. Seahawks coming off a big win, as well as the Saints 7-7 on the outside looking in, and then the Falcons, because of the NFC South, are still mathematically in at 6-8, and the Packers, Brett's Packers 6-8. Put them on the graphic because yes, they obviously still have a chance. So we'll start off with a very easy question. The Niners are the best team in the NFC. Yes or no?
Easy. Yes. They're not just the best team in the NFC, they're the best team in the NFL. Period. The only concern that you have for the Niners is if they go through a string of injuries, because the Niners have historically done that. And the only time they've looked bad this season is when they had the injuries to Trent Williams and to Deebo Samuel. If those guys stay healthy, the defense stays healthy, they're the best team in the league. They're the best coached. They have the scariest defense. The offense is humming. And they just, when you watch them, it's just so apparent how much better they are. They just have to stay healthy. And so I'm expecting the last 3 games, once a game is put into place, they're pulling starters earlier and earlier every week. Because if you get Trent Williams hurt, if you get Deebo hurt, the end of the postseason, their chances of advancing go down drastically.
Okay. I mean, Brett, do you agree with that?
Yeah, they're best team in the NFL, and I don't really know if it's all that close right now.
Okay. So now, second question. With knowing that about the 49ers, who in the NFC is their biggest stop block in making the Super Bowl?
Can I say themselves and getting hurt? Because for me,
I need a team.
like
I need a team.
You need a team because if I'm going to be like a smart ass, I'm going to say it's themselves and getting hurt. But if I'm looking at the teams that legitimately would scare me, look, I know they beat the pants off of the Eagles, but for me, it's still Philadelphia. I know their defense has been down, their secondary is really bad, but I feel like the offensive line for Philadelphia, when they're at 100%, can control the time of possession, keep the ball out of Brock Purdy's hands. The tush push can really extend drives further and further. And if Jalen Hurts gets back to playing peak football, I just feel like they're the most dangerous team. I don't trust the Cowboys because they're just tough. They're not tough enough to match up against the Niners. They're going to be playing on the road, and the Cowboys don't play well on the road. Detroit's defense, I don't trust at all. Look, Baker Mayfield's a great story, but come on, the NFC South, like we really going there. I think Philly's the only answer, and even at this point, I don't believe that they're going to be much of a threat. But it has to be Philly. It's the only team that can really pose a threat to them.
Brett, do you agree with Philly, or as Brandon put, he thinks Detroit?
Yeah, I do think it's just Philly. It's tough. It's fun because I do think Detroit can pose some issues for the 49ers, but fully healthy, I think the 49ers are just that much more talented than Detroit, and they would just run right over them. Pretty much the same thing with every team here. If they stay fully healthy, I just don't see a team here that can even touch them, honestly, going into the postseason.
Okay. I mean, I
my
will say,
concern,
go ahead.
yeah, my concern with Detroit is yeah, their offense could kind of match, but you could just throw on Detroit so easily. And Brock Purdy's throwing the ball so well, and they have so many weapons and use so much creativity with their route running that secondary is just going to get torched. And I don't think Jared Goff has it in them to keep up in a shootout. The Lions don't have the personnel to win a shootout against the 49ers.
That's what's so tough about this 49ers offense. You need corners that can cover. You also need linebackers that can cover because of Kittle and even Usyk. You just need your entire secondary to be able to cover and be on the same page. And the
Christian
49ers
McCaffrey, you can't forget about that dude.
Yeah,
I mean, you saw how wide
McCaffrey.
open he was last week. It's ridiculous. He fell down and got back up and still ran into the end zone. Like, he's their best player, and he was that open. It's just ridiculous.
They know how to confuse defenses with all that scheme and motion they like to run. It's insane.
So Brandon, I guess doubling down what Detroit says, simply because of their grit and their ability to score the ball offensively. And yes, I mean, looking at their splits, they're 5-2 at home, also on the road. So out of these actual NFC playoff teams, they're probably the best team on the road, even though coming into the season, that's not what they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be kind of like the Cowboys, really good at home and on the road, hope to be kind of 500, and they've really turned that around. I mean, I like the fact that the Lions have like a tough running game with Montgomery and Gibbs as well, but you just figure with that Niners defense, they would probably figure out a way to stop that, and they're so good against the pass that, it'd probably be a tough day for Goff. But I kind of agree with Brandon that based on their makeup, they might be the best team if the Niners aren't necessarily running on all cylinders and they slip a little bit. The Lions could take advantage because I agree. I'm not going to go with the Cowboys unless the Cowboys were to jump the Niners and have the 1 seed. Then maybe I could entertain them. But even then, I'd probably take my chances with the Niners going into Dallas and beating them very easily. Now, the Eagles, I would have been there with you, but something just seems off with this team. I've been one of those who's been like, look, the Eagles will turn it around and everything. But last night, I don't know. I saw a lot of things that really were worrying. We saw a defense give up big play after big play when the Seahawks needed them. It wasn't Geno Smith. It was Drew Lock who we were.
That's the thing. It was Drew Lock. It's Drew
We
Lock.
were
He's
under the impression
terrible.
that Drew Lock wasn't that good of a quarterback, but the Drew Lock against that Eagles defense, I mean, he looked like a guy who should be starting in this league next season. Patriots? No, I'm just kidding. But look, it has gotten that bad. I'm looking at Drew Lock last night, like, I could see him in a Patriots uniform. But I mean, that last throw he threw to, Jackson Smith and Jigba, it's like, how did the Eagles in that situation? And it was just a simple go route, and he was wide open, and Drew Lock put it in a perfect position. But like in those situations, that shouldn't happen. Like, it should have been like a tough catch going up and getting it. I could be like, okay, but that was just him flat out burning the corner, and it was up to Lock at that point to put it like in his reach. And I feel like this is the stuff that we didn't see last year from the Eagles. And now
Something's wrong in Philadelphia. It is not always sunny in Philadelphia, fellas. Something is wrong and broken in Philadelphia. I don't want to take too much, but did you guys watch or hear the post game press conference that Jalen Hurts had after last night's game? I caught a little glimpse of it, and I don't remember the exact verbiage, but they were asking him like, what's kind of going on with the team, and he kind of was calling out some of his teammates, alluding to the fact that there might be some commitment issues, some effort issues for the team. And Jalen Hurts has never really been the guy that calls people out publicly. He's always been perceived as a really good leader. That's one thing. I don't like the Eagles, but I really like Jalen Hurts, and he fixed it, and he put it on himself as well. But for him to say that, I feel like something is broken. I feel like something is wrong. Maybe the coordinator loss was actually a really big deal because we've seen how good the Colts have been playing, and the Cardinals, look, they have a bad record, but it's also a bad team, and the players seem to be playing hard for their coach. Maybe something's wrong in Philadelphia, and I think by the time we come into like March or maybe April, it's going to leak out of why they just. I mean, they should be on a 5-game losing streak. If you look at things realistically, they should have lost to the Chiefs and the Bills if there's not a drop pass and if Gabe Davis runs the right route. If those two things happen, they're on a 5-game losing streak. Like, that's what we're talking about realistically for Philadelphia.
All right, so Brandon put, okay, fellas, in totality agrees. It's the Niners world. Everyone else is just in it. Agree. Said he's playing the blame game. As you said, Jake, he put it on himself as well. And then Sajin, I'm happy for Locke right now. Can't take away anything from this man. Good job. I mean, look, I was thoroughly surprised by Locke in pressure situations, the kinds of throws that he made. So yeah, I don't have one bad thing to say about Drew Lock right now.
No, and I was happy for him that he seemed genuinely happy. Like, you felt happy for the guy because he struggled so badly. But look, Philadelphia can turn it around. Look at their last 3 games; they're all get right games. It's Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Like, you couldn't ask for a better tune-up games leading into the postseason. And if they win out, I read somewhere, I was watching some sports radio, that they would get the division. All they have to do is win out, and the way tiebreakers work, no matter what, they do get the division. So them being currently the 5th seed, like, they control their destiny with games against 2 really bad teams. So they can fix it. So it'll be really interesting to see next week if we're still talking about the Eagles in the same kind of sense that we've been talking about in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at the wild card, look, we know the Cowboys or Eagles are going to get the first wild card. That's a given. Vikings and Rams currently have it. This is the last thing on the NFC here. Are those two going to be the 6 and 7 seed? And if not, how do you see the last 2 spots in the wild card? Who gets them? Start with you, Jake.
I think the Vikings drop out. I haven't been very impressed with how they've been playing the past couple of weeks. They've definitely, it's just shown that they've had a lot of injuries. They really miss Kirk Cousins, and I think they fall out. And I think the Seahawks are the team that kind of bumps up. I don't think either NFC South team is going to make a wild card appearance. I thought the Packers were going to be the team that was going to do it. We talked last week that they were going to potentially run the table. The last 4 games of the season, 4 or 5 games of the season, and instead they've struggled the past two games. So I don't think they're going to do it. So I think Minnesota drops out and Seattle is the team that jumps in.
I will say I agree with you. I think the Seahawks get in over the Vikings and then the Rams stay in. Brett, what do you think?
Honestly, this is going to be boring, but I do agree with Jake. I think it's just the Seahawks jumping in and the Vikings falling out.
Hey, it's Greg. I was waiting for him to show up. All about those Hey, I've been on the Bucks. I like the Bucks winning the South. I need to see Baker Mayfield in the playoffs. The cockiness will be at like level 100, and I'm
Give
here
it to me. It's
I'm
great. It's going to make great TV, man. Great TV. And Sajin saying that he was confused Matt Patricia being part of the Eagles franchise. That's something I didn't know they've had a change of defensive coordinator. Like, I feel like I'm pretty well in tune with what goes on in football. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, they switched coordinators? When did that happen? If you're a team that's going for the Super Bowl and you make a change this late into the season for a main coordinator, that shows you, again, something is wrong with the team.
Well, I feel like it was a change that the Eagles fans have been asking for. Sean Desai or whatever has been on thin ice. Now,
they didn't like their last defensive coordinator either, though, to be fair.
I don't know how they feel about Matt Patricia, but we'll see if they continue with this, or I don't know what the Eagles. They're probably going to just start trying things until something sticks and they win a game and then just stick with that all the way through.
Maybe it's the fact that Big Dom got ejected from the sidelines, because ever since then they haven't won a game. Maybe that's what they need to bring him back, and that was the turning point for the Eagles this season, was Big Dom getting booted from the sideline.
Right, maybe it was. Okay, so we all agree on the wild cards and that the Niners are the best team in the NFC. And as Jake said at the opening, we only have 3 weeks left in the NFL season. So we'll revisit this next week. Each week from here on out until the playoffs start, we'll go through the current playoff standings and kind of talk it out. So hold on. Last one here. Hopefully Baker gets it, guys, but he'll likely have to win that game on New Year's Eve against the Saints. It does seem like it's going to come down to that final game. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm taking Baker.
I don't think Baker will have an issue with the Saints.
Yeah, I'm a Saints fan, and I'm going to take the Bucs in that game if I had to make a pick on it.
It will be fun. I agree. It will be fun. I mean, that's what the league wants. As long as there's things that play in the final week, the entertainment will continue to be there. Possibly final week. Yes, we agree. All right. So before we go on to our picks, another word from the network.
Hey y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
I forgot before our picks. This was a segment that Jake came up with. So we definitely got to talk about it. Like, I mean, it's the holiday season. Got Christmas, whatever you celebrate. We're talking about Christmas for this segment, but the popular song "All I Want for Christmas Is You" or your significant other or whatever. But we're gonna take the sports lead on this, and I'm the Patriots fan. Got Brett as a Packers fan. Jake's a Saints fan. So the simple question is, all my team needs for Christmas is. We'll start with you, Jake, and your Saints. What should be under that Christmas tree for every Saints fan?
I think, look, I've been a Saints fan for a long time. I was there before Drew Brees. I enjoyed the great Drew Brees era. All I want for my Saints is just start the rebuild. Just get out of cap hell. Can we please get out of the salary cap hell that we've built up? And it made sense. When we had Drew Brees, I think they started this cap management in like 2016, 2017. It made sense. You had Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league, best player in the franchise history. You want to try and win another ring. You mortgage the future. Can we just pay it, please? I know the front office is fantastic at fixing the cap, getting under the cap, but the Saints have the oldest roster. They have the worst cap situation. They don't have a franchise quarterback. I don't believe in Derek Carr. Can we just pay what's due, have a bad season next year, and start from the ground up the following season? Get out from all this debt, move on from Derek Carr next season, draft a franchise quarterback, and just start a full-on natural rebuild. It's going to be painful, but again, I've lived through so many 3-13 seasons that it's fine. I'd rather have a bad team with a bright future than this team that's just middling for 7-win seasons. And along with that, I want a new head coach. I don't want Dennis Allen. He's a great defensive coordinator, but he's not for me. So just start the rebuild. I'm a patient fan. I'm willing to wait for it, but I don't like this mediocrity, hoping to win the NFC South, the worst division in all of football, and then lose a home playoff game. There's nothing in that excites me going for that.
All right. Brett? Well, Brandon put a head coach. He's a Bears fan. We're right there with you.
Your future is bright. Your future is bright, Brandon.
Yeah, got Justin Fields. All right, Brett, your Packers. What do you need for Christmas?
All I want for Christmas is Joe Barry to get his walking papers. The coordinator is so bad.
Yes.
You can look at his, passing. He's the guy that, on paper, you look at team stats. Oh, that passing defense looks pretty good. You will not see somebody who's worse at situational football than Joe Barry. I'm talking about 3rd and 5. There's guys lined up 30 yards down the field. We're going into prevent defense with a minute and a half in the game. The other team still has 2 timeouts, and we're just gladly giving up big chunks of the field at a time. Like, even the Onion got in on this, guys. The Onion made a joke about the Packers. They said the telescope spotted a Packers secondary 20 million light years away. I commented on it and said, it must be our usual 3rd and 1. Like, there's nothing good that this dude does. We plucked this guy off the defense of an 0-16 08 Lions team. His best defense was the 2015 Redskins. Tell me your favorite 2015 Redskins moment. Yeah, exactly. They're absolutely
I got nothing.
at best. So can we please get rid of this dude and get somebody who will actually play good situational football? And if there's growing pains with a new coordinator, it is what it is. But at this point, I just need somebody different. I need some fresh blood calling the defense.
I will say that I think that your whole experience with Joe Barry can be just summed up in that last drive against the Giants. The whole Joe Barry experience is that last, there's no reason for Cutlets to just move down the field like he did, but he did. That's the Joe Barry experience to a T.
Say I think I saw stats like Tommy Cutlets took at least 5 to 6 sacks every game he's played, except for one this year. Can you guess which coordinator couldn't get any pressure on him?
I'm just gonna take a guess. It's your team, since you're a little upset.
0 sacks, no pressure. This is the worst offensive line in the league. You have a good pass rush, and you couldn't figure out a way to get any pressure? Yeah, please get this man out of my building as soon as the season's over.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's pretty good. I mean, look, as a Patriots fan, you could probably guess what we need. If you wrote everything, I wouldn't be mad at you. But, well, I mean, the defense is fine. We'll save that off of Santa's list. But where do I even begin? Almost like perspective, because I think a lot of the fans are just upset because the Brady stuff is still so fresh in their memory, and they're just stuck in the good old days. Look, when Brady left, it was going to be tough. Was it supposed to be this tough? No, but it was going to be tough. So, like you said, Jake, I'm one of those fans that's fine with a few years of, futility, as long as there seems to be a plan in place. I mean, the plan right now, we don't know if Belichick's staying or he's going. We don't know if Mac Jones gets a chance again or is just labeled a bust and you move on. We don't know if Bailey Zappi's good or not. We don't know if the Patriots have a high pick. Will they take a quarterback? We don't know the offensive line will ever get fixed. We don't know offensive coordinator next year. Is it Bill O'Brien? Does Josh McDaniels come back for his 50th time? I don't know. So I guess what I want for the Patriots is consistency in terms of a plan going forward. If you decided that Mac isn't it and Bailey isn't it, use a high pick, bring in whichever one of these young quarterbacks you want, whether it's Penix, Daniels, I don't know, Caleb Williams, Drake May, I don't care. Target one, get them, and then move on from there. Start there. That's why I want to start with what the Patriots need.
You don't want the Patriots to select Brock Bowers with the second overall pick? Bill Belichick loves good tight ends, man.
He does, and Bowers is pretty good, but no. If he did that, Patriots fans might pick it. They would probably go to the stadium and burn some things. Because even though Bowers is a great player, I mean a great Georgia tight end, I don't want to say he'd be a terrible NFL player, but that's not what Patriots fans want to hear. Neither is trading down, even though it might be the right thing to do. I think at this point, Patriots fans don't want to hear that the pick's been traded. They want to stay at 2, 3, whatever, and make a selection. That's hopefully a quarterback.
Yeah,
go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
No, I think it has to be quarterback. I think that's the only thing Patriots fan needs to hear this draft. You have the number one. You have the possibly number 2 pick in the draft. You have a lot of really good QB options.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, at this point, I don't think there's any Patriots fans left that are big Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi believers. So I think that it just has to be quarterback. Otherwise, there probably will be riots in New England.
Yeah. All right. So those are our Christmas wishes for our teams. I
That was kind
appreciate
of sad. Like all three of us are just like, man, we're having rough seasons for all of our guys. We all got a little negative there.
Hey, hopefully we do this again next year and it's a little bit more joyful. That's what Christmas is supposed to be. Joyful. Right now, none of our teams are that great, so you're not getting a lot of that on here.
Hey, I got a quick question for you guys. I know it wasn't planned, but I see Brandon commented over here about, he's a Bears fan.
Yes.
So here's my question for you. If you're a Bears fan, and this is an interesting question for all of us, you have the number 1 pick. Are you trading Caleb Williams, trading away Justin Fields to build around Caleb Williams? Or are you trading the number 1 pick for more picks to build around Justin Fields? Or is there a guy that you think that you really need to pair with Fields that you have to pick at 1?
That's actually a pretty good question. For me, I'm a Fields guy, so I would want them to not take the quarterback. If it is them trading back a couple of spots for Marvin Harrison, I feel like that would be the play. But it'd be tempting if you had the number 1 pick to not take Caleb Williams, or I guess whoever at that point is graded out as the number 1 guy. But I would stick with Fields and draft Marvin Harrison. Why not? Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore. Now your offense is looking a little bit better.
This is tough. This is a great question, first of all, Brett. And I think it comes down to who the head coach is. Like the head coach has to believe in the quarterback. And I've always wanted to believe in Justin Fields. It's really hard to get behind him, to believe that he can be that franchise quarterback. And this question would have been a lot easier to answer when the Bears had like the 5th pick. Because if the Bears had the 5th overall pick, then that's like, no, you draft a quarterback, you trade Justin Fields, and then you try and get Marvin Harrison. Like and that's like a fantastic draft. I think with where they're at now, it's tough because like no quarterback in any draft is ever a guaranteed success. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence, he was one of the best prospects we've ever seen. And just 20 minutes ago, we were talking about the concerns that are out there for Trevor Lawrence. You probably keep him and go forward to rebuild the offensive line a little bit. You try and get Marvin Harrison, give better weapons, and get the head coach that could believe in him. But I would not fault at all if the Bears decided to trade Justin Fields to maybe Atlanta, get a 1st-round pick, get a quarterback for this new kind of regime, and go from there. But, man, you might just have to stick it out with Fields because you already went all in for these signings to prove that he's the guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just curious what y'all thought because I do like Justin Fields, and I think that you just trade the number 1 and then move down a couple spots because if your target is Marvin Harrison, I'm guessing you can get him at 3 or 4. Or even if you want to go, let's say, if your target's Joe Alt, you might be able to trade back even a little further and get even more for the pick. So I just think the right move is trade the number 1, build around Fields because that kid is so talented.
Yeah. All right. The 3 of us agree. We would stick with Fields. So before we move on, Mo said Fields would thrive with the Falcons. He would, but that would also mean that the Falcons made a right decision. I don't know if they got that in them. And
I love it. I love that the Falcons hate.
No, see, Fields is a 1st rounder, so Arthur Smith wouldn't play him. You'd start Heineke.
Mo said football, health for Christmas and beyond. NBA, Lakers trade LeBron. And that's from a Lakers fan. I would have said
I don't
Lakers
think that's
trade
going to
LeBron,
happen.
but we know it's not going to happen. You don't trade LeBron. LeBron asks to be traded. Brandon says he agrees with us. All right. So we're going to get into these picks. Once again, another word from the net.
Hey, this is Chris from Coffee and Sports, the morning show over on Sports Empire Network.
And this is Mo. Catch us on Northeast Streaming Sports Production, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10 a.m.
We hope to see you there.
Let's go to the picks. I mean, we normally do overreactions, but I feel like the Christmas thing was good substitute for the overreactions this week. I mean, Greg said we're negative Nancy's. We want to give you more negativity necessarily with some overreactions. So instead, we're giving you the negativity of picks because Jake and Brett went 3-2. They know what they're doing. I went 1-4. So at this point, either the NFL script is written that Kyle's going to be terrible at picks this year, or I just have no idea what I'm watching anymore. Because I'm 25, 39-1. Jake was under 500 last week. He's now back up to 500 at 32, 32-1. And then Brett, 13, 9-1. So, Brett's leading the way right now. See, Jake, you were right with the Raiders, Seahawks, and Colts. I got the Raiders right. So at least the one I got right was the biggest blowout of the week. I'll take that. And then Brett, you got the Ravens, Raiders, Seahawks right. Jake, you were wrong with the Jags. Oh, I missed the team there. I deleted one. Hold on. The Jags and Broncos were the two you got wrong.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say, I was 1-4. Brett, although I will say, look, I had Patriots plus 9.5. They lost by 10. So once again, the script screwed me there. I had the Jags minus 3.5. Well, that one was whatever. No, the Bengals minus 3.5. The Bengals won by 3. Once again, script screwed me there. And then the Eagles just didn't show up really well there. Brandon's asking, how can I find you guys and what is the name of your podcast? Oh, this is the Big Three. You can find us, here, Sports Empire Network. Actually, good question by you, Brandon. You can see a replay of us tomorrow morning at 11 on Northeast Streaming Sports Productions on Roku TV. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I believe I got it all covered. But yeah, that's how you can find it.
Sports Empire Network, and then we're on that list. All the network shows are on that podcast list. That's the easiest way to find us.
Yes. Well, easiest way, like and follow the network. That way, when we go live, you will get a notification. That's the easiest way. All right. So let's go into the slated games. We're going to do a lightning round here because, we're getting a little late in the show. Got Jake Saints going to the Rams. Rams are a 4.5-point favorite. Brett, how do you see this game going?
Ooh, this one's tough. I think this will be a close game. I don't think it'll be decided by more than a field goal. I think the Rams will end up victorious in this one, but I will take the Saints to cover.
Okay. Jake?
Yeah, so I do think the Rams win. They're the better team. They have the better quarterback and everything that's there. But this 4.5 spread, I think, is too big. Especially Thursday night games are very, very tight. They're just hard to predict, and I feel like it's going to be a field goal game. So I think the Rams win this game. They're the better team, but the Saints are going to cover, and it's probably going to be a game where it's 24-21.
Okay. I'm going to take the Rams 4.5. Because, you don't need any analysts from me at this point. Just give the Rams 4.5.
Well, look at that, Jake already up 1.
There, yeah.
Oh, this is great. Oh, yay! Patriots are on Sunday night. I was a little surprised when I saw it. Not gonna lie, but who doesn't want to see Bailey Zappi, right? Patriots are traveling to the Broncos, which is actually like a den of horrors for Patriots teams going back to when Tom Brady was there. To face the Broncos, Broncos are a touchdown favorite. Jake, how do you see this one going?
I'm going to take the Broncos to cover. 7 points is kind of a lot, and I think Denver knows that they have to play their best if they want to make the postseason. They definitely fell short last week against Detroit and didn't look very good. This is their rebound game. Patriots defense is still really good, and we saw that for the Chiefs and the Patriots last week. They were in it, and eventually the Chiefs just kind of overwhelmed them, and it was just a little bit too much. I think the Patriots being on the road, being Sunday night, it's just going to be a little bit too much. And I think they end up winning probably by 10 points. It's probably going to be, I don't know, 24-14 or something along those lines. But give me Denver to win the game.
All right. Brett?
I'll take Denver as well. New England doesn't necessarily fare very well in Denver. I think this is going to be a situation where the Patriots defense is going to play Denver tough. I just don't think the Patriots will score enough points to cover. So I think this will end up being like a 17-9 game.
Okay. I'll take the Broncos +7 as well. I mean,
looks like we're missing this one.
I'm going off of history. There's just something about Denver that the Patriots always struggle there. I just think it continues here, especially Bailey Zappi is going to be his first time going out there. Yeah, not the best place to play for your first time. Monday night. This
Ravens game is going to be awesome.
Ravens fans will tell you the Niners, we're better than them. Well, I guess we'll find out. They're going to travel to San Francisco Monday night for a matchup between the number one seeds in both conferences. The Niners are a 5.5-point favorite at home. So how do you see this one going? Go with you, Brett.
I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. I will take the 49ers winning, but I do think that the Ravens cover. Okay. If the Ravens have one advantage, Lamar Jackson's legs can kind of neutralize and slow down that pass rush just enough. But I think it makes this game interesting.
Jake?
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. This is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most, and it's going to be a real great test for each team. Like the two number one seeds, we've been talking about, the 49ers are the best team in the league. Baltimore's probably the best team in the AFC. This is Baltimore's time to really show on Monday Night Football, on Christmas night, to like, hey, we're the team to beat. I'm going to take the Ravens to cover. Like Brett said, I think that the time of possession is really going to be a big part for Baltimore to cover. I think Lamar is going to extend plays. It's going to keep the San Francisco 49ers offense on the bench, and it's going to be a very physical game. Both of these defenses are really good. They're really physical. They attack the quarterback pretty well. 49ers probably win, but it's going to be 27-24. It's going to be a 3-point game, and I think Baltimore covers.
This is what Christmas night. All I want for Christmas is a 49ers cover. I'm taking the Niners minus the 5.5. I do think that the Niners will be smart about defending Lamar Jackson, which is something the Jags did not do. Who knew? Rushing three guys and leaving wide open gaps for him to run is not the way to defend Lamar Jackson. Don't think the Niners do that. I feel like that the Niners are just clicking right now. They probably are hearing a lot of the talk about the Ravens being, maybe the team to beat in football, even though the Niners seemingly keep being questioned. Brock Purdy is in the MVP talks. I feel like a win against the Ravens team, against another guy who seemingly is in the talks as well of Lamar Jackson, would really propel Brock Purdy to the front of the line, whether you have him there or not. But, I just think the Niners and their multifaceted offense will be too much for a good Ravens defense to stick with. So give me the Niners and the 5.5, which, like you guys have said, which means the Ravens probably blow them out, and I'm here next week like, whatever. If the Ravens do that, I will say a nice thing about Lamar Jackson.
There we go. If the 49ers beat the pants off the Ravens, then I think that seals Brock Purdy's MVP candidacy. I don't necessarily agree with it, but no one seems to really want the MVP award this year. And if you go on Monday Night Football against this great defense that attacks the quarterback and you light them up, it's kind of hard at that point to point at someone else to win the award.
All right. Yeah. All right. So now we have the rest of the Week 16 schedule. We have Bengals Steelers. Steelers 1.5-point home dog. We got Bills Chargers, which before the season would look like a really great matchup. Now, not so much, which is why the Chargers are a 12.5-point home underdog. Colts Falcons. Well, it's Taylor Heineke now, so I guess the Falcons have a better chance to win. Brett's Packers have the Panthers. Panthers coming off that 9-7 barn burner over the Falcons. Put another one together. They got a winning streak. You got Browns, Texans. Texans are needing that game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Lions, Vikings. Vikings would need that one as well as a home underdog. Commanders, Jets. Nothing really to say there. Seahawks, Titans. Okay. Jags looking to bounce back against those Bakerneers, as Greg called them.
That's such a great nickname, by the way. Bakerneers is just such a great nickname. I love it.
It is. Then let's see. Yeah, Cowboys Dolphins, which could be an interesting game. Dolphins are a 1.5 point home favorite, and then now looking at the Eagles. Sorry, going against the Giants as 11.5 point favorite. Can the Eagles turn it around? So, for those of you new to the show, we do our upset pick. So basically, which underdog we think will cover or potentially win outright, and then our lock is just which favorite we think is destined to win easily. So we'll start with Brett. Who are your upset and lock picks for Week 16?
All right, this is hard for me to say, but for my lock, I'll take the Panthers covering the spread against the Packers. I do think the Packers win, but I think the Panthers will cover that 4.5.
Okay.
Woo!
That hurt me to say, by the way, so I hope you guys appreciated that. I'm in a lot of pain.
I can feel your pain, Brett,
Okay.
through the call here. I can feel it. I get it. Wow.
Hey, did not see that one coming. Okay.
For my
based on your picks, seems like it is a good one. All right, so yeah, go ahead with your second pick.
And then for my upset, I will take. I think the Chiefs win, but I think the Raiders will end up covering that spread. So I'll take the Raiders in a much closer game than you would think against the Chiefs.
All right. Jake, what do you got?
Okay, so for my upset, give me Cleveland over Houston. I think Cleveland their defense is playing fantastic. Somehow Joe Flacco is a productive NFL quarterback. I know he had, I think it was 3 interceptions on Sunday, but somehow last week he turned into playoff Joe. And I think Houston is just, the injuries are just too much for him. And I think that they probably win the game and at least will cover for that. For my lock for this week, man, you know what? I've been really hard on the Bakerneers. Even in the preseason, I predict them to get to be under on their 6.5 wins. That was my lock for the division. I was clearly wrong about that. Give me Tampa Bay. They're going to win that game. They're going to go in hot. They know if they keep winning, they're going to get that division title. I don't like what I've seen from Jacksonville. Give me Tampa Bay as my lock to win that game.
Speaking of Joe Flacco, by the way, guys, as of last week, he has officially thrown for more touchdowns than Kenny Pickett, my favorite stat of this year so far.
One of the greats.
This pains me because in the preseason, I was so hyped on the Steelers. I don't like the Steelers, by the way, but I was buying into them. I was buying into Kenny Pickett. I thought he'd be top 10 in passing yards. So any stat that shows just how wrong I was on Kenny Pickett and the Steelers passing offense makes me laugh at how horribly wrong I was on the Steelers. It's just, I just can't believe it. It's unbelievable.
It's a crazy stat. But yeah. So my upset, I'm looking right down the road. Give me the Colts plus 1.5 against the Falcons. Yes, Heineke's starting. That does give you more hope as a Falcons fan, but I just can't trust him. Between Arthur Smith and his decision making, the fact that he's for some reason started with Ritter, went to Heineke, went back to Ritter, stuck with Ritter, now seemingly hands tied behind his back, going back to Heineke, and he's talked about possibly playing them. I don't know, like going back and
You can't
forth.
do it. You can't do that. You
I
can't
just
do
don't
that.
know what he has going on. Like, does he just hate Atlanta now? And he's like, if I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna do it in the greatest way possible. Just
Is he
act
next
like
coach
it
fired?
is. Is he the next
Is
to
he
get
the
fired?
next coach fired? I think so.
I think he should be.
Yeah, he'd have to be. Yeah. Because now that Brandon Staley's gone, which I actually believe we've never actually touched on that. Pour one out for Brandon Staley, you know? Survived the playoff collapse, survived all the embarrassment of this season. It took an embarrassing loss to the Raiders to finally lose his job.
Raiders
Let's
scored
be
a
honest.
combined
Congrats.
3 points last week.
Yeah,
Yep.
should have scored more.
Yeah, congrats to my Charger friends. I have a lot of Charger friends that may be listening. They've wanted him gone for a year, basically
Mhm.
since he got hired. This is your early Christmas present. Like,
Yeah.
and I'd be happy to. If I was a Chargers fan, I'd take that as a Christmas present and look towards the future.
Yep. Don't look at the fact you have Easton Stick as your quarterback. Just know Brandon Staley's no longer on the sideline. You get to have some fun this offseason looking at coaches. I know everybody's talking about Bill Belichick's going to be in LA. Sure, fantasize about it. I don't care. Will it happen? Who knows? Because they don't even know what's going on with Bill Belichick. One guy says he's done for. Ian Rappaport's like, oh, decision hasn't been made. So, I don't know what to think anymore. I can't pick games.
Nope. Charger fans don't have any more crazy 4th and 1s. You're going to have to try and wrap your head around to support your team for. You don't have, 4th and 1 from like your own 26 and you're up by 4 points in a 2-minute game. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Like you can look towards the future.
You might see
Have some
fundamental football. Who knew?
There you go. There you go.
My lock. Sorry. Lions -3 at the Vikings. I feel like the Vikings are, stumbling here at the end. The Josh Dobbs effect is over. Pour one out for that. You got Nick Mullen, which, okay, I guess you can get excited for that if you want. But I just think the Lions are the better team. And like I said earlier on, they're actually a pretty good road team this season. So I expect to see them impose their will against the Vikings and get a win that pushes them closer to, I guess, legitimacy in the NFC.
That was the other team I was thinking about for my lock. It was between Tampa Bay and Detroit, because I do think Detroit is they have to win out. They want to keep that divisional lead, and Minnesota is just right for the picking. It's just not in the cards for them this season, and it's too bad because they started off bad, and then they started to kind of recover, and it's not this year for Minnesota. It just isn't.
All right, I agree. All right, so those are our picks. Just to recap them, Brett has the Saints +4.5, Broncos +7, Ravens +5.5, then Panthers +4.5, and the Raiders +10. Went against his own team. I love it. Jake, you have the Saints +4.5, Broncos +7, Ravens +5.5, Browns -2.5, Bucks -1.5. Then I have the Rams -4.5, Broncos +7, Niners -5.5, Colts +1.5, Lions -3. So I could go 0-5. We'll see. But it's another week of what? Thursday night, you get Saturday, 3 Saturday games, you get Sunday games, and there's actually 3 Monday games because it is Christmas. So when you're chilling with your family, there'll be games on all day. What's better than that? It's like a second helping of Thanksgiving when you get 3 football games as well. You get that for Christmas as well. So love it. Before we get out of here, Brett, Jake, you have anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Make sure you check out And One immediately following the show.
Absolutely. I mean, the tease, what's the underrated player category?
Yeah, there we go.
This week's underrated player category, undervalued players who played in the wrong era.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like
all
that.
right.
I like that a lot.
There's the tease right there. So make sure you
That's
tune
got
in
me
right
hooked.
after us
That's
for
good.
And One. Jake, you got anything you want to say?
just great show. Thanks for all the audience participation. It was great. Enjoy this week. Christmas can be really hectic, can be really stressful. Spend time with your family, with your loved ones as best you can. Have some good food. Enjoy the holidays. Come watch us on Tuesday, day after Christmas, but watch football. Like, how great is it that we're going to have time off from work? Most people have games Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Just enjoy the holidays because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And like you said, Jake, the holiday times are tough. A phone call, a text to somebody can make their day. So, don't forget anybody. Just spread love. Enjoy the holiday season. We will be back next Tuesday, 7 p.m. to recap all the craziness in the NFL, as well as if the Pistons win by then, we will dedicate a segment to the greatness of the Detroit Pistons ending that wild losing streak. And we'll see. Can I go 0-5? At this point, that's the only thing I need to really round out this great season of picks for myself. So
Go full Pistons.
There we
why
go.
not? They're getting publicity for it. Why not? But yeah, so like I said earlier on, make sure you check us out again tomorrow if you have Roku TV, Northeast Streaming Sports Productions at 11 a.m. to 1. You can see a replay of this episode. But if not, make sure you like, subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow on Facebook, share it out. Greatly appreciate it because a lot of great shows on the network, as you saw the ads for, and plenty more to come. So for myself, Brett, and Jake, until next week, we will see you. Enjoy the rest of your night, and Merry Christmas as well. Good night.